Well, welcome back to the Reforming Nerdom podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jordan Cecile, and I am joined not in studio, but as always, by P. Nate, aka Nathaniel P. Wright, aka Nate Wright. Nate, how are you?
Good. No, you said as always, but I wasn't here last week.
I know. You ruined it.
It
was like my thing, and then you kind of ruined that. So
it's,
not as always.
I was in the great state of Texas. I was, and you guys talked about this a little bit. I was in the
For
States
Liberation Day.
during Liberation Day. I was
Unbelievable.
watching the inauguration with some American friends. So I was down at Christ is King Church in San Antonio, Texas. Matt Bell is the pastor over there. And just a little bit of a shout out to him because we got, I was down there with Joe Boot and Michael Thiessen and myself. We were speaking at his conference, and he had little gift bags for all of us, like little kind of swag bags for the speakers. And it included some like church merch and some nice shirts and some, local cuisine kind of stuff. But he also gave me 2 pairs of Star Trek socks because he heard our Reforming Nerdom podcast with Joe and realized that we like Star Trek. So just a shout out there that we got some great listeners down in Texas.
Well, Matt, if you are listening, Ben and I also would like some Star Trek socks, preferably some lightsabers from Star Wars. But you know what? I won't be picky. If somebody wants to give me some free stuff, I will not be picky.
Mine was a command color, so you can give them maybe the tech or the medical colors or something like
Right.
that.
Well, and we are also joined by the one, the only, Benjamin, a.k.a. Ben of the Cloth, a.k.a. Ben Emery. Ben, how are you? I know you're not great because you don't have Star Trek socks, but aside from that, how are you?
Yeah, seriously. I don't need, like, I might just leave. I don't know. Doing fine.
Yeah. So how have things been, boys? We haven't all been together on a show in a little bit. How are things? Is keeping up with your nerdy pastimes? I'm hoping.
Been a minute. Yeah.
I've now read Mistborn, the first one.
Oh wow.
While I'm waiting for Ben to catch up and finish Way of Kings. I'm loving the Brandon Sanderson. The other thing that I'm doing that has been a lot of fun is I'm actually replaying through Mass Effect. So in our Discord, somebody suggested that I get the Mass Effect Legacy Edition, which has all three of them together. So I'm replaying through Mass Effect 1. It's been a long time since I played through Mass Effect 1. But it's great. I'm enjoying that, and I figured we should do a whole episode on Mass Effect. I don't know if you guys have ever played it, but I still think it's like the best video game ever made.
It's on my back catalog. I've been trying to get through a couple books right now, so I haven't really been gaming much, but it's pretty high up there for me. It's downloaded on my PS5. I think I just need to tee it up and start playing it on my Steam Deck. It's like streaming it, because that is probably how I'll be able to play it more, is if I just play it in bed before going to bed. So, yeah. Ben, what were you?
So I also, on my, like with PS Plus, how you get the free game of the month or whatever, that Mass Effect, what's the Legacy Edition or whatever,
yeah.
that was the free game of the month, I don't know, like a year or two ago. But I let my PS Plus subscription lapse a while ago because I just wasn't using it enough and didn't want to pay, because they raised their price to like almost $200 a year. So I don't know. Someday I may get to it. It's a game I never actually played. Like I remember when I did get it as a free game there, I turned it on for an hour and played or fiddled around with it a bit. But that is the extent of my Mass Effect.
Nate, what kind of time is required to get through each of those? Are they like 15-hour games, 40-hour games? What do you remember?
The first one, I'm maybe 4 hours in, and I'm probably halfway through.
Really?
Now granted, I've played number 1 before. I'm trying to get through number 1 fast because number 2 and 3 are actually fantastic that I wanted to get to. So it's not a huge time commitment. It's definitely not like a 40-hour game. You can probably knock all 3 of them off in 40 hours or less.
How like open world is it in terms of like, is it just the main mission Or is there like side missions that you could or couldn't do?
For
Or
sure. Side
yeah,
missions you can do or not do.
you could just kind of plow through
Yeah.
the main storyline if you wanted to.
For sure. And
Yeah.
there's other stuff that fills it in, and of course, like, it is BioWare, so they do the whole, like, romantic storylines, and if you go and do this, then you get to, so if you ignore all that stuff and just do the main storylines, specifically in number 3, sort of, one of the things that you're doing is you're trying to amass a big enough army to go and fight the Reapers. And so one of the things that you're doing there is you can go there with everybody that you can recruit throughout the whole, world. Or you can go, with minimal force, and it just makes the last level easier or less difficult. But so you can definitely get through it fast if you want to. But the characters are great, and you're sort of each time you're recruiting a crew. And so again, you don't have to do all the side missions for all the crew. You don't have to you don't have to do all that stuff. So you can get through it quick if you want to, but it's worth the play. So if you had the time, it's definitely worth it.
When they remastered it, did they just remaster the graphics, or does the gameplay feel more up to date as well?
Yeah, so I think it's hard to tell because obviously I don't still have the old one, but definitely the graphics, it just seems smoother because it's a shooter, right? And so that seems a little bit smoother in terms of just the response time and all that kind of stuff. But then the other thing they did is there were a few like tedious things in the first Mass Effect that they corrected in the second Mass Effect. In terms of how you mine minerals and stuff like that, that was very tedious and time consuming. And so you can kind of bypass that as well, which is really good.
Mhm. I like when they do that with a remaster where they like update the mechanics, make it feel more modern. Like it's not just the graphics, the actual gameplay. I know, what was it? The Last of Us, when they remastered Last of Us Part 1,
Yep.
they made the gameplay feel like Last of Us
Yep.
Part 2,
Yeah,
which was
that's right.
way more improved. And so yeah, it's good when they do that. So I mean, a game like Mass Effect is big enough that it warranted going and not just doing like an aesthetic upgrade to it. And yeah, I know a couple guys in our Discord are huge into that game. So
Yeah,
and one of whom I trust a lot when it comes to gaming. And so I just need to actually sit down and
you do.
commit to playing it. So
Yep. So true story. My brother, he has so my brother's 2 years younger than me. He has 2 kids, and his son is named Shepherd. His son's the same age as Judah, and he named his son Shepherd because of Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. That's so
Johnny, if you're listening,
yeah,
well played, sir.
well
That's
played, sir.
yeah, well played. For me, in terms of updates, status update on the Millennium Falcon, my Lego build. It is
Yeah.
now complete. I'm actually
What?
done. I I forgot to bring it down off the shelf, and I do not want to go and grab it because it will be that time where I drop it and it shatters on camera, and I don't want to see people.
And you
It'll be
just
our most
actually
viewed
cry.
episode
I
ever.
don't want people to see me cry because I spent so much time on that thing. But all that to say, it's so good. It is so good. It was so well done. So, to one of our
Put
regular
a
sponsors.
picture in the comments once this video gets uploaded.
Yeah, no,
There you go.
it is fantastic. Like the amount of detail that like Brent puts into it in his builds, it's just crazy. It blew my mind as I was going through and doing it. So now that I'm done, I'm not really sure what to do with my time because that's all I was doing in my spare time for weeks, since Christmas at least. So,
Sounds
anyways,
like time for Mass Effect, I guess.
well, and seriously, now I actually have time to play video game because I just haven't really done that. So I'm looking forward to. I mean, unless I somehow come across another Lego set I want to build, but that's not going to happen. It's too expensive. It's fun to do, but there's no way I can justify spending that kind of money on the regular. But
Or
yeah,
that kind of relational capital in your marriage.
no, not no. I mean, I did for Melissa's birthday. I bought her because I was at Costco with her and the kids, and she was out doing something else at somewhere else in the store, and we walked by the kids like the toy section and saw Lego roses. And so I bought the set of Lego roses for her, so she's gonna build it now with the kids. And I was like, well, I could spend 50 or $60 on roses that'll last a week, or I can spend $50 on Lego roses, and now you always have Lego
They
roses.
will last forever.
And they look awesome, and she actually was pretty excited about it. So, yeah.
Wow.
How's
There you
Well
go.
played, sir. Well
I-
played.
I mean,
Didn't
that's the
think that you would get relationship advice on a nerd podcast, but
There you go, everybody. Lego now has roses, so gents, you only need to buy it one time.
Get your wife Lego roses and name your kid after Commander Shepard.
There you go.
I mean, there you go. All right, let's just wrap it up, boys. That's it. That's all I needed to
One
do.
will lead to the other.
Yeah. That's right. All right. Well, before we get into our topic of the show, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time in the news because there's a few things that have been popping up since we last recorded. And these two are a little bit, well, they're definitely related, very similar. And they are probably not going to be something we talk about a ton. More of them, more so just like an update on the consequences of being woke. And, we should just call this Go Woke, Go Broke because there's a couple stories in the news as it pertains to the media and entertainment. One of them being, if you remember, listeners, when we had Dr. Joe Boot on talking about Star Trek, we were discussing very briefly, we mentioned the Star Trek 31 or Section 31 movie that was going to be coming out. I think it was has been a direct to Paramount Plus, direct to digital release. And it, according to IGN, which is a very left-leaning, woke news source when it comes to entertainment, they gave Star Trek Section 33 a 2 out of 10.
Whew. That's rough.
That's rough.
And this guy right here, he says in his review, where is it? Hit the quote here. It is Section 31 will infuriate Star Trek fans and bore everyone else. The Michelle Yeoh fronted spinoff movie Section 31 is 100 minutes of generic schlock containing only trace elements of Star Trek.
Wow.
Sweet.
So I didn't
Schlock.
actually check to see what IGN, let's see if I can pull this up real quick, what they rated The Acolyte, because I'm
That
curious.
Michelle Yeoh, is that the wasn't she in The Mandalorian? Is she the Fennec Shand? Is that her? Or am I thinking of someone else?
Ooh, I do not remember Mandalorian well enough, but I'm pretty sure she was she Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or is that somebody else? Is that a different actress? Remember that movie?
I remember the movie. I don't remember anyone in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she was maybe, but I'm just trying to see here if we can find out. So IGN gave The Acolyte a 6 out of 10. The Acolyte was a 6 out of 10.
Better.
And they gave Section 31 a 2 out of 10.
Wow.
So I don't even want to waste too much time talking about it. It's not surprising. But okay. The weird thing about that though is, remember they were like the whole what was it? What was the show that they decanonized, or at least there's speculation that they decanonized? Do you guys remember what that one was?
Discovery.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it Discovery?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Because they already decanonized the cartoon.
Yes. Okay.
So
I think we're still on the fumes of wokeism in Paramount for a show like this. And Trump is president, everybody. And, as Ben and I discussed last week, I'm sure Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson are going to turn around Star Trek when they get in that room and say, hey, guys, more guns, less gay. Let's make Star Trek awesome again.
I mean, would anyone make a better Klingon than Sylvester Stallone?
No.
Yeah.
Very little makeup actually required now. Just let him bronze by the pool for a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. Let's hope. Again, I don't really care about
was it again? Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone. Who's the third ambassador?
John Voight.
Yeah, that's right.
The
John
dad from
Voight.
National Treasure. That's the
That's the best that Ben and I could account for was he was Nick
Also,
Cage's dad.
he owns the LeSabre, or he owned the LeSabre that George Costanza bought.
Yeah, that's right.
Come on, there you go.
Now, I'm really not part of Star Trek fandom by any means. Is this something people wanted or asked for or expected? Did this just come out of nowhere? Is this somebody's pet project? I just don't even know what this show is.
I honestly have no idea. It just seems that whatever it was not even servicing an agenda well. It was.
Yeah, that's what I was just I don't even know what the point of it was.
Yeah. I don't know, because for somebody at IGN to not even speak positively about, oh, but at the very least, it's pushing inclusivism and whatever. Like the fact that they just said this is bad for everybody
Just complete and utter garbage.
yeah. So
Literally everybody will hate this. I
Yeah.
I think that the old formula of play on people's emotional nostalgia, like nostalgic emotionalism, and then push the DEI crap.
Yeah.
Like that was the formula, right? People like what they liked when they were kids, so let's reboot it and let's add some woke stuff to it. And that was a recipe that they thought was a recipe for
Slam dunk.
success.
Yeah.
And over again, it's just failing. So we're still going to see this for a little bit. Like we've talked about this a lot. I think it's dying now. There's not going to be new projects that are really pushing this stuff, but we're still in the era because things take time to produce and to edit and to release. We're still going to see this stuff, and we're going to, and I think the reviews are going to get more honest. The criticism is going to get more harsh. The bottom line is going to continue to plummet, and until the new stuff that's starting now or within the last year starts hitting the market, we're just going to have the same conversation over and over again.
Speaking of things starting to change, I saw somebody. I didn't actually go and verify if this was true or not, but I did see somebody
So
not
totally spreading
ironically
rumors.
or like satire, posting a thing that says that Google has actually announced that they are going to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America on Google Maps.
oh, please be true.
Apparently, well, even in the article, it said it hasn't happened yet, like on Google Maps, but they have actually said that they're going to do it,
It's amazing.
which is like unbelievable.
Yeah, just
Okay.
total.
The Guardian. No, this is real. This is actually, according to the Guardian, Google Maps will rename Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America in U.S.
Is it Gulf of America or Gulf of America?
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
wow.
Yes.
I mean, that part of America too,
Apostrophe
where it is,
America.
like that's where they want it, right? Like they
That's
actually,
exactly right.
oh yeah, that in that part of the world, that should be Gulf of America. Well, Ben, here you go.
We did it.
Off
We
the
did it,
cuff,
everybody.
We did it, everyone.
We did it.
We did it. Yeah, Ben and Jordan
Yep,
covering Liberation Day.
that's right. All right. Well,
Got Trump's message to Google
yeah,
through
that's
our
right.
through our humble podcast.
Chances of Donald Trump listening to this podcast at any point in the future, what do you think? At some point, do you ever think?
50-50.
Yeah.
Less than 100, but more than 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that needs to be our goal. If Joe Rogan can get Donald Trump, we can. Believe,
How hard
boys.
could it be? Well, just tell them that we have a lot of sway in terms of
Politically,
like 51st state,
It's true.
up here in
just
Canada.
tell him it'd be gay not to. He'll be on here so fast.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be so gay if you didn't come on.
All right.
If
Task.
you don't, Kamala will.
Ben, let's task you with that task of trying to lure Donald
That's
Trump.
on your to-do list
Yep.
there, Ben.
Yeah,
Give me a
that's for
week.
you.
Give me a week.
And I wasn't able to successfully. I failed in this task, and I tried the movie poster, Ben, that I tried to get for that Liberation Day movie. I couldn't get it.
I thought I
to
saw
work.
one on a Signal thread that was.
I got
decent.
close. I put
It
it
was-
in our Discord
Discord?
chat.
Yeah.
You got to be able to put that up, Jordan. You got to.
Grok
for the
Grok was able
video.
to do me a lot better. Like ChatGPT just kept telling me I was too racist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So Grok
Ben's on
was
about 4 different lists now.
I mean, look, I literally, I think Jordan, I think I even sent to you all the different ways I tried to get it to like make a stereotypical representation of a Mexican, and it's just I was like, just put a sombrero on him. They're like, no, I'm still too racist. I'm like, make it like a mariachi
eating a
band. They're
taco.
like, nope, still too racist. Like, no.
Well, Ben,
man.
you had jokingly said one of Trump's executive orders was making AI more racist, and I was, or allowing it to be more racist, and I actually, for a second, was like, I didn't think that was an impossibility, that he actually would have done that. And I mean, let's hold out hope, because not that we don't need to be racist, but I mean, like, that kind of a video or
Not
picture.
pretend racist. Yeah.
Yeah, like that actually would be funny, and that's where like an actual Mexican person would probably have found that video or that image hilarious if they saw that. But okay,
Not
second,
Selena Gomez.
no, probably not.
Yeah. Did
I
you
don't.
see all that?
No.
I saw
Oh,
something
man.
about her like
She
crying about
she
immigration
posted this
policy.
video of her just, like, weeping and crying and, like, "I'm so sorry to all my people that are getting deported, and I wish there was something I could do." And then Trump, like, tweeted back, basically, I couldn't even repeat it. You'd have to, like, look it up, and, he just savagely responds to her, and it's wonderful. I encourage you to look it up.
So when we were in San Antonio, we went to the Alamo, and it was the day before. We went on the Sunday afternoon between the morning and the evening services, and so it was the day before Liberation Day, inauguration, dawning of the new
Man.
golden era, and there was a small protest at the Alamo. So it was like 30 people. But what was very interesting, so it was like this, and they had a loud phone. They were talking for like 10, 15 minutes. But it was all about, we're immigrants, we belong here, we won't be intimidated, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, the Texans were very like kind to them, but every once in a while you get somebody who like would yell out like, "We love immigrants, legal immigrants, like get your papers in." Like, but what was hilarious is like in this group of like 30 people, there were all kinds of signs about immigration, and then there were a ton of Ukrainian flags and Palestinian flags. And it's like this is the alliance. This is it.
Yeah.
You're pro-Palestinian, you're pro-Ukraine,
Evil
and you're
empire.
pro-illegal immigration, and you all hate Trump.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So I didn't find anything about Trump, but I did see an article here from Fox News where it is Trump's border czar, which I forget his Tom Homan, who is a boss and just wants to like actually just get rid of everybody, which is amazing. But he said in response to Selena, we got 500,000 children who were sex trafficked into this country, separated from their families, put in the hands of criminal cartels to be smuggled into the country. This administration can't find over 300,000. Where's the tears for them?
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Boo-hoo, a whole bunch of like middle-aged.
Did you hear when he was asked, so you guys are planning on separating families? And he was like, no, we'll deport the whole family together.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Well, I think one of the executive orders that Trump instituted was repealing, something about if you were born here
to illegal parents.
and saying like, no, you're not a citizen because you were, which, I mean, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Now the challenge is like, how do you actually go about doing this? Which that is a whole logistical nightmare.
You give them notice first. You let them. Here's your time frame. You get out on your own with your family safely and securely, and then after that date, if you're found anywhere trying to buy booze and you get carded, anything, traffic ticket, pull over, anything, try to find a job. Employers, anybody who knows, they let you know, we take you out.
Well, and it shows the power of having a strong president, because I just saw a day or two ago where Colombia responded to him, and he had said like, no, you're taking these people back, and they pretty much were like, okay, yes, we will. And like just
that was like Trump on the fifth hole golfing. And then the president of Colombia tweets something out that they're not going to take them back. And then he stops at the tee block on the sixth hole, tweets it out, and problem solved before the end of the sixth hole. Like,
yep. Well, that's it. Like when you have a president who will flex the might of the military and being like, no, you will, and not just a president who flaunts the DEI, like the fact that you'll take trans dudes who in your military, people actually respond differently to that.
Oh yeah.
Imagine if Trudeau got up and threatened somebody, like we would laugh at him. Of course. Let alone like other nations actually laughing at him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, Selena.
Okay, here we go. I found Trump's tweet. He says says many Hollywood liberals have taken our actions to secure the border very personally and are no doubt surprised that the government finally did something after years of inaction. Actress Selena Gomez, best known as the third amigo on that murder mystery show with Chevy Chase, wouldn't, or the show that Chevy Chase wouldn't touch, posted a video to social media where she was in tears over the deportations. Selena, these are people who broke the law by coming here. Some have also committed other horrible crimes. I hope Selena is just as upset about the victims of these crimes. Focus on your career. The people want a sequel to Spring Breaker.
He should have signed that host of The Apprentice.
What a guy.
That's
so
so
funny.
good. I love how much of a troll he is. All right, and the second article, similar to the Section 31, is or this was a tweet that I saw, and it was an article from Deadline, and the tweet said the Rings of Power minutes watched dropped 60% for season 2. And this was a part, I can't remember if I pulled this or just put this summary together, if it was directly from the article, but essentially was showing that, oh no, this is in relation to season 1. So in season 1, the first 2 episodes of season 1 of Rings of Power attracted 25 million global viewers within 24 hours. But then only in the US, 37% of those people actually watched all 8 episodes. And then so now, 60% drop off from that.
Ow.
Ben, I
Like
know
this is
you watched some of it.
I watched
How-
I got my way all the way through season 1 and I got like 2 episodes. Again, like just out of curiosity because I want to know what everybody's talking about. But I could only make it like 2 episodes through season 2. It's so bad.
Nate, have you gone into those, waded into those waters
I
yet?
literally, I think I watched 10 or 15 minutes of season 1, episode 1, and I mean, even in that, I was just like, you know what? I'm just not going to do this.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I don't think it was anything like that turned me off of it in the first 15 minutes, but I knew it was going to be bad. I turned it on thinking maybe it'll pull me in. Totally didn't. Never went
Yeah.
back.
No, it's so bad for so many reasons. But like it's just to be able to fumble the bag on Lord of the Rings, like just this maybe the most beloved property right now. Like before, like I would say before Rings of Power was made. Like if you just took the books and those 3 Peter Jackson movies, like like I feel like you could make almost anything and people would be eaten out of your hand, and somehow they made this and were able to make everyone hate Lord of the Rings.
I saw something that was unsettling yesterday, that Viggo Mortensen is now as old as Ian McKellen was when they filmed Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
That's
I've seen
crazy.
that come up the last like year or two every once in a while. Yeah, which is it's bizarre to think about, but I mean those are 25 years old.
But they
I'm pretty
don't.
sure 2001 was Fellowship.
So we over, I guess, what was it, a week or 2 ago, we started watching, because we totally forgot we had it, but we have the Blu-ray 4K Ultra of the extended editions.
Is it in the like gold box that like flaps open?
No, it's just like in a thicker Blu-ray case. Like we didn't
Oh, okay.
get one
'Cause
like a
yeah,
collector's
anyway.
edition one.
Yeah.
But we wanted to watch the extended ones, and we forgot we had it, and so we watched it. And those movies in 4K Ultra, it like somehow, I don't
They're
know.
better than anything that's being made right now. Okay, like if you look at the budget for Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, I think it's like a third for all 3 movies of like one season of Rings of Power, and they're just 100 times better. Like it's unbelievable how good they look compared to this garbage show.
Is there anything even in them like redeemable that would show that, like, oh, at least the CG is really good. At least the
No, it's
music,
not.
like, is there anything in it that even seems
The CG is terrible. The costumes are terrible. The extras are terrible. The storyline is crappy Lord of the Rings fan fiction. Like, it's just so bad.
I would love to know the budget breakdown. Like, where did that money actually go? Was this just like a front to funnel money into something else? Because it just doesn't make sense. Like, this is the most expensive TV show ever
Yeah.
made.
I mean, I know like half of the budget just went to buy the rights.
Mm,
But I don't even understand why. Like, they bought the rights, but all the rights were to make, like I said, like fan fiction. Like, they couldn't even use any of the actual stories of Tolkien. Like, they could just
Yeah.
like use the world and the characters, but they couldn't actually use any of the stories. So it's just a terrible financial decision.
well, I'm gonna probably watch at least the first episode just so I can say I did, and
For science.
not just rely on people who are bashing it, because admittedly that's all I've ever consumed is Nerdrotic and other guys just ripping it apart, and everything they say, it's like I don't see how I would disagree with them.
Yeah.
Um,
Like,
but
there's a couple interesting characters. Um, like, it's not like every second of every episode is the worst thing you've ever seen, but for $1
But close.
billion
yeah,
that they spent on it, it's like I'm quite certain the three of us could have made a better show for $1 billion.
Undoubtedly.
Just saying.
Undoubtedly.
yeah. Even not knowing how to make a movie with
Yeah,
that money,
even-
we could have
even
found
never-
somebody who does.
Yeah,
You know what I
well,
would have
that's
done with
it.
that $1 billion? Hey, Peter Jackson.
Seriously.
Yeah, like
I'll get
solved.
I'll give you what's left over after I buy a house,
Yeah.
like,
and then
but
you can make
seriously, yeah. Oh man. Well, the last article, and this segues into our topic of the show, but this was an article from Forbes, and this was really in the news. I think it was yesterday. Ben, I think you and I were chatting a little bit about it yesterday, but it's from Forbes, and it's the biggest market loss in history for NVIDIA. NVIDIA is a large chip and computer hardware and now AI manufacturer in the US, and they lost $600 billion yesterday off of their market cap, which was about 17%. The founder lost $20 billion yesterday in wealth. And all of this is because a new AI tool out of China called DeepSeek was launched, and there was a press release, and they were saying how they are able to generate comparable results using a fraction of the cost. So for those who don't understand, like with AI, it requires a massive amount of compute power to be doing these AI processes.
I didn't actually read the article. Like, are these guys, is this a chip maker? Like, what are these guys doing? What are they
So
making?
NVIDIA makes
I know what NVIDIA does.
Oh,
but,
sorry. So DeepSeek is like OpenAI. So it's pure software.
Okay, so
They're
they're
the
not a
ones-
hardware. They're just
No,
software.
they're developing the AI model. So they're the
Yeah.
one who are sourcing and developing the model to be able to then output and do all this AI
Gotcha.
tasks.
Yeah.
And so now, because their tool is able to do the compute, the equivalent amount of like computations to be able to do this stuff, they can do it at a fraction
Less
of the
time,
cost.
less power, less
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because NVIDIA's made they've in the last couple of years, they've become such a big company because they make the GPUs, which they're the best in the industry. There's others, AMD or AMD.
Yep, AMD.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
AMD is the other one. But so now you have this company that is causing NVIDIA to lose all this money because now there's better competition in the market, which is good. My only concern is that this competition is coming from China. And
As we all know from TikTok, software from China, what could go wrong?
well, and that's it, right? I mean, there a friend of mine who works at the
I mean,
city.
maybe they're just going to sell it to Trump in a couple months, like TikTok.
Maybe. I mean, but what is he going to do with that, right? What is he going to treat it the same way as TikTok? Is he just going to be okay with this now extremely advanced AI tool to be used by American citizens, which with 100% certainty is spying on you, collecting your data, manipulating you? Like we talk, like AI has absolute bias built into it, unless you have somebody like Elon Musk right now who seems to be preventing or at least trying to limit bias in their algorithms. But what do you think China is going to be doing when Americans and people in the West are using their AI tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair points.
Plotting.
I can't disagree. I mean,
Oh.
like the part in terms of Nvidia's stock needed to plummet. Like it's one of, if not the most overpriced stock in the history of the stock market. Like it was priced at like 50 to 80 times future earnings. Like it was just stupidly overpriced. So any negative news was going to crush it. They just happened to have had no negative news in like the last 5 years straight.
Well,
That was bound to happen, and it could very well go down a lot further and still be overpriced. Like it's still even at minus 17% is way overpriced.
yeah,
So
I think it bounced back a little bit today from what I saw earlier.
yeah,
I think it has rebounded, but I think it's like anything. It's just like when the tech boom or the internet boom of the early 1990s is
yeah,
is that
it's
when the
2001 the dot com
yeah,
2000
and
2001 .com boom, yeah,
yeah,
or
because like
bust.
everybody got in early. Some of those companies got huge, but then
Yeah.
competition came in the market.
The difference between those, a lot of those though, is those companies were actually garbage and were overpriced. Like Nvidia is a good company that makes a good product that actually earns a ridiculous amount of money. They're just like their stock price is just way overpriced because too many people are buying it too much too fast. That's not their fault. Like they can't stop people from doing that. It just means that if anything goes wrong, their stock plummets,
Yeah.
and that's what happened.
Well, I think that overinflation does show just how significant AI is. How
Yes.
and this kind of like leads us into our topic of the show where we just want to talk about AI a little bit because I mean it's impossible for us to ignore AI and its impact and its involvement in our lives individually, our culture, and because it is such a big deal. And I've even said to people who, so for those who don't know, like I use AI a lot. Out of the three of us, I think I'm the most proficient and experienced in using different AI
I
tools.
don't
But
think you do not need to use the words "I think."
yes,
I'm
That is a certainty.
I am. And when I've said to people, because it's really interesting how so many people right now still don't really understand it. They don't understand its capabilities. Like, what is AI? How do you use? Like, they're just it's so
yeah.
green for the the masses.
I think so many people misunderstand what AI even is, and
Yeah.
therefore
What it does, how it works.
don't know how much they actually use AI almost every single day
Yep.
themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe the biggest misunderstanding with people. It's like every time you do a Google search,
Yep.
that's AI. Like
Yep.
that's what's making the Google search pop stuff up is
It's
and
it's
like
why people prefer to search on Google than DuckDuckGo or whatever else, right?
or an encyclopedia
Yeah.
on your shelf, right? Like it's like that's why it's a popular thing that's become a word. Like Googling is a word now. Like it's that common. And yet people are afraid like, anyway, that's I
Well,
think is the biggest misunderstanding.
and it's because when I've discussed it with people, I've said to them, like I've asked, are you using AI in anything you do in life? Is it work? Personally, and so many people are just like, well, no. Like, how would I? Like, how would I use AI in my life? And so it was really interesting because a friend, all of us, Corey at our church, he's a plumber, and I was talking to him about it, and he was asking like, how do I use it in my life? And I'll get into that a little bit. I think later, talk about some of the actual uses of it. But he's a plumber. He's like, well, what could I possibly do with AI? How could I use it? And so I was like, okay, well, so he was telling me about a problem he was having with this install that he was doing for his parents. It was this outdoor fire burning heat pump thing that was going through and heating the floors in the house, whatever. And he was just stuck. He couldn't figure out what's going on. It's not working. This thing that he's checked all the things that he knows to check. And so I just said to him, well, why don't you just take my phone and explain. I'm going to push the button. And now you just explain how you set it up, the things you've done to troubleshoot, just be as detailed as you can. And so he did that, and it output this gigantic list of all these things. Did you check this? Did you check this? Did you check this? And I actually need to check in with him to see if he was able to sort it out and fix it, because I don't know. But it was incredible because he was even seeing that, no, these are actual things. Like, this is actually understanding my problem, and the things that it is telling him to do were legitimately
Would fix it.
helpful. And he
Right.
just, and even though he said, like, not all of it were things that he could have gone and checked because he already did, but it was just validation for him to even see, like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Like, I'm on the right track, at least I'm understanding this. And it just blew his mind. It's like, so here's an example of how you can leverage this, even for something like plumbing. And he, all of a sudden, not that he was like a doubter of AI, but he just didn't really see how it could possibly be helpful for him.
Yeah.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he sees, oh wow, this is actually something that I could use on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So I think even
Yeah, I mean, like for literally anyone, like the most basic use of AI is as an information aggregator, right? Which anyone can use, essentially. Like, you can figure out a purpose for a large amount of information to be distilled and
Yeah.
organized for you,
When
and
you
and
think
that it
of
would be
like
helpful.
all three of us, right? So like Jordan, you obviously you do a lot of stuff in terms of marketing, publishing with Ezra. Ben and I, obviously, we do a lot of sermon prep and study and that sort of stuff. It literally it just replaces the need for like research assistants, right? So when you think about these authors who spit out all these, we've talked about like, the John Pipers of the world, Doug Wilsons of the world, who write a zillion things. It's like, back in the day, they had research help that would help them, go and pull out all the verses that have to
Go
do
to the
with this thing.
library and get the
Yeah,
books and get the articles and the
it
essays
it
and
has just, you don't need that anymore. Everybody has research assistants, innumerable research assistants at their fingertips now.
Yep.
Unpaid.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and that's
Well,
where I think
except
that
for
brings up,
$7.99 a month.
there's yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's not very expensive, and I feel bad. I almost don't want to say this, but I doubt I know somebody who, I won't say who. Their entire job is taking recordings from doctors and transcribing the notes. So the doctors, instead of handwriting notes, they'll just record it, and then they give it to them, and they'll sit down and listen to it and transcribe it and type out the notes of the. And I was like, okay, so for $15 a
We'll
month,
go back to school.
I could actually replace your entire annual salary, and I could do everything you're doing in a week in probably a couple hours and have it be just as good. Because that is like a real application of AI, is being able
Yeah.
to do that.
And
even with
the
like
argument against that would be something like, well, yeah, but I know medical terms, I know how and it like, yeah, I know, and so does it, except better.
Yeah.
But
like
better.
even if you accounted for, like a 10% margin of error or whatever, okay, then I'll hire a dude to just go over and edit them. Again, still just like at a fraction of the hours and the cost.
Right.
And
The thing is, though, people don't realize that the sheer amount of information that these AI models are pulling from, and this is like no offense to anybody who has, spent their life studying and practicing and doing all these things. Like, you do not have access to the amount of information in your head that this tool does.
you
Like,
can't.
and you can't. And it also now, because of the sheer amount of compute power that these chips have now. I mean, like, we're talking about chips that are like smaller
Thanks
than my
to
pinky.
NVIDIA.
Yeah, like smaller than like the nail on my pinky. And they're a billion times more powerful than the stuff that would send a rocket, like stuff like that NASA would be building, like Elon Musk rocket ship stuff 50 years ago. Like, these little chips are smaller than my nail, and they're like a billion times faster than them. So it's like the amount of compute power we have is just extraordinary. So for somebody to even say like, oh, well, it won't know. No, like, it will. Like, the only thing that, I mean, there are certain tasks that I think AI are hard to replace on. So having that, there, it is missing that human touch. So like, if, for instance, that job required knowing Bill, and Bill's medical history, then yes, like there are certain things there where having personal knowledge and experience with a person is certainly helpful. But guess what
But yet,
happens
and
if
then
I just
even again, it's like given enough time and enough input,
yeah.
it gets to know Bill.
Yeah. Well, so then like that brings up so I have like a list of some dangers and some benefits of AI, some things that I think are potentially concerning, things that we do need to be mindful of, but then also some things that just we cannot ignore the actual just benefit that comes from it. And so one of those dangers is job displacement. Like that is a real thing that this like AI is going to replace jobs. The person that I just mentioned, I'm sorry, but like maybe you work for somebody who just likes paying you whatever it is per year and doesn't care. But I'm sure when it comes down to wait, I can spend $30 a month or I can spend $50,000 a year and paying you to do this, whatever that number is. Not many people are feeling so altruistic that they're just going to pay $50,000 a year when they could spend $30 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
it's a
though,
real thing, but it's always been a real thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's AI or the Industrial Revolution or like pick your thing that's changed the way people work. It's always tools have always been developed and AI is just a really, really good tool that's going to displace a lot of people's tasks.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And so would you say, Ben, like, what would you say to somebody who says it's not a tool? Like it would you can it be more than just a tool in your similar to a hammer in improving the efficiency of building a house? Is it would is could it be seen as anything different than that?
I mean, I maybe, but it's not less than that. Right? So it is improving efficiency for mundane tasks. There's no way you can deny that. And like I said before, way more people are using it to you to replace mundane tasks than even that don't even know that they're using it. And so like I don't know, maybe it's more. I actually have very little um sort of underlying fear of AI myself. I know there are others and good Christian brothers and stuff that disagree and take it a lot more seriously, and maybe I need to. I admittedly have not like insanely researched it, but um, it's certainly not less than a tool.
Yeah, C.R. Wiley, if listeners know him, author. Nate, I know you've interviewed him for Ezra. I don't know if you've ever spent time with him, but he's a favorite of ours. His writing is
yeah,
excellent.
great guy.
And his the theology podcast is also a great resource. And I know a friend of mine was saying that he's talking a lot about AI. So at some
Yeah,
point,
I've
I'd
seen him
actually
posting a lot of stuff
yeah
recently.
yeah. So at some point, I'd love to maybe get him on the show to get his thoughts because I think it would be great because I think there are like theological implications from AI as well that we do need to consider because one of the things that came to mind when I was thinking about it is like an absolute benefit is just improved productivity. There's just no denying that like I could not get everything done in a week that I need to do if I weren't using tools to do it. There's just no
Here's
way.
the here's the thing though, and this is where I think the theology comes out of it is, um, your first sort of downside was it will replace jobs. Well, that's not a downside. Like Ben said, whether it's the Industrial Revolution, whether it's the automation of factories,
Tractors,
yeah, all
replacing
of those things
oxen,
will,
automobiles replacing horses.
exactly continue. Yeah, all those things. But those kinds of things have always traditionally bred ingenuity, right? Like more gets invented, new ways of doing things get invented. When somebody's job to the classic, I think it's in a story. I can't remember what story it is. I think it might even be Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where like there's automation that replaces the dad's job, and then he goes and figures out how to be the robot repairman who to repair the robots that replaced him on the line, kind of thing. Like there's always that kind of stuff. And so, when certain menial tasks are no longer employable skills, then that should push a population to gain different, irreplaceable, employable skills.
And that's
And it
where
breeds
I think
ingenuity. It should. But the problem is like now we've been prepped to think through universal basic incomes and welfare
yes.
and all this kind of stuff. So like we're not the same culture that was alive and well at the time of the Industrial Revolution. And I don't know, like now with the threat of jobs being replaced, instead of that sparking human ingenuity, now it actually gets everybody crying out for daddy state to take care of them.
Yeah, and that's what I was just gonna say is I think you're absolutely right, where when this would have happened in the past, this would have, like, people would have been excited about it because, "Oh, look at all the things we can do now," where now it's like, "Look at all the things we don't have to do now." Right? And so, uh people are like you say being prepped for uh AI ushering in the utopia, right?
That's
Where
right.
none of us have
Yeah.
to work anymore, where universal basic income, we all get taken care of, we all just get to live a life of leisure, and AI robots will do all the mundane menial labor. And so yeah, it's a totally different environment. But I do believe, again, theologically, just like what God has put into mankind in terms of just ingenuity. And like I never actually fully fear that uh mankind will never kind of like move on to the next thing, because God's just like made us to do that, to like conquer and take dominion and figure out the next thing. And so like I don't know, I just don't have that fear, I guess.
Yeah, well, one of the, what was I had one of the things that I think when it comes to, like, AI that oh, man, I'm drawing a blank here. What was the Ben, as you were talking right there,
Ju-
Nate,
Do you want me to
you hop
jump
in.
in?
Give me a sec, yeah, because I
Okay,
had something,
because
and give me a sec.
I know this was something that you wanted to ask, and I didn't know if you were going to ask it, and I got kind of a far out theory on this, so I'll put my tinfoil hat on for a second. Let's just answer the question that a lot of people are asking about AI, like, is AI demonic? Is this a bad thing? Is this morally reprehensible? And I probably have a little bit more of a tinfoil hat answer than you guys even maybe do. Is I mean, short answer is no. I don't think AI is inherently evil. I don't think it's a demon that is doing your bidding. But I would also say I was just doing a podcast on the Ezra podcast earlier today with Jeremiah from Cultish on Mormonism, and we were talking about how often cults begin, false religions begin with a demonic encounter, right? Extra biblical revelation, some sort of, for Joseph Smith, it was Moroni, the angel that appeared to him and told him about, Mormonism through the golden plates and all that jazz. And,
Could he have
David
come with a
Hume.
better name?
Yeah. David Hume, yeah, other than an Italian gangster. If you have David Hume was visited by an angel named Philemon who gave him his perverted philosophies. So I only say the one thing that does kind of freak me out a bit about AI is when you open yourself up to an unknown entity and you're looking for wisdom, historically speaking, it's not nothing that talks back. It's
Mhm.
something demonic and wicked and evil. And so I'm not saying that like there's a demon on the other end of your chat GPT, but what I am saying is that the idea of opening yourself up to a sort of esoteric knowledge that can come to you from an unknown source is just dangerous.
Yeah.
Well,
You're not saying there's a demon, you're saying there's 10 demons.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, you
oh,
got it.
yeah. Well, and as like I even think about like AI stuff. One of the things that helped kind of pivot my understanding to be less concerned about it was just that everything in creation ultimately belongs to God.
Right.
So like AI isn't some product of demons that is being created independent of God. It's all using processes and mathematics and technology and all these things that God had to bring about and cultivate in creation to be able to make it happen. Now, again, can it be used for nefarious purposes? Yes, like it absolutely can be. But I think it is just helpful for those who are perhaps concerned about it to know that, yeah, like God still is the one who created this. He's just in common grace. He is allowing people to be able to leverage the skills and knowledge that they have to use this. Now, we as stewards of creation, we need to put this under the feet of Jesus and under his reign and rule and use it for good and not for evil, because it
Yeah.
absolutely can be used for evil. That was the
We're
thing
in
that
a
I was trying to remember earlier.
Yeah, we're in a weird place in history too, where for the last 2 millennia, almost all of the technological advances, and scientific advancements have all been done by Christians,
Mm-hmm.
and this one wasn't. You know what I mean? So it's like this is one that we actually that's, like, been done without us that we actually need to now go and kinda, like, take back and take dominion of. So it like, there is I do feel like there is a bit of a different flavor to this versus, like, oh, the tractor that replaced the oxen kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the motivations behind using it are an important thing here, right? Because I do think when you get into AI, and I mean Elon Musk, for all of our fanboying that we'll do when he starts cutting with the Dodge, when he starts cutting government waste, we'll be happy about that. But at the end of the day, like, this is a guy who wants to grasp immortality through technology, right? I mean, he is a utopianist. He is a transhumanist. He is a guy who is seeking salvation and liberation for mankind and immortality through mankind without the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that in and of itself is in fact demonic. And I think that's part of the problem, is that it is a tool, but it's a tool that right now is being wielded by people who hate God and don't understand his world. And that's always going to be dangerous. It's always going to be dangerous for people to use tools in a world that they don't understand.
Well, it kind of goes back to our very first conversation we had with this whole project, Reforming Nerdom, and seeing the need for it to be reformed and needing to cultivate in Christians that long-term perspective, that view that no, this world, it matters. It needs to be one. We need to win culture. We need to win science. And like this is one of those things where, unfortunately, when you do have that negative outlook on, even it's funny when you have that view of the future, that pessimistic, things are getting worse, you would look at AI as this scary Skynet thing that needs to be feared and to run away from, instead of seeing it as a thing that, no, we as Christians now need to actually develop our own way of doing this or subvert the tools that are already in the marketplace right now.
Well,
But
it's not like it's going anywhere,
no,
right? Like,
no, it's
this is
not.
not a genie that goes back in the bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, we need to, whether you have the optimism that we have or not, as for the foreseeable future, this is a thing that we have. And I mean, if we don't do something to conform it to the kingdom, then it is going to be used for evil. Because like there are some very scary things that AI can do that we do need to be genuinely concerned about. So one of those things is like deep fakes. I'm sure our
Oh,
listeners
yeah.
are perhaps
It's
familiar with deep
getting
fakes.
way too good at that.
Deep fake, whether it's audio or video, it is terrifying how good it is at creating a video. And without getting into too much detail, there are celebrities and even people who aren't celebrities who just want to get revenge on somebody they don't like, who take their likeness, superimpose it in inappropriate contexts, and guess what? There's now a video of a person doing things that's not them, and it sure looks like it.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
is,
just in the, like, uh, court of law setting, right? Like,
yeah,
what even is a piece of evidence at this point?
yeah,
Like, if it's not a
Yeah.
literal, tangible, physical piece of evidence,
It can't be audio
like,
recordings
audio
anymore,
video
video
is
record. Like
useless.
it is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
so that is something that, yeah, that should cause pause. And then even in just like bias of the models that they're using, and we saw that in OpenAI was a big one for that, where you see, oh, hey, say something negative about Donald Trump, oh, it goes on this rant. Say something negative about Joe Biden, oh no, we're not going to do that. That's mean. We don't want to make fun of an old man. Like almost that that obvious that they were willing to criticize one side, not the other. And so that's why at least a tool like Grok, which is XAI and Elon Musk's thing, at the very least, they're seeming to have some. I mean, he's obviously very pro free speech, so he allows it to speak more freely in that. But we do, even as Christians, we do need to be mindful of the tools that we're using when it comes to this, because there are going to be biases. So we do have to be taking things with a grain of salt when we are looking for information, statistics, or let's just say one of you guys in your sermon prep for Nate, what is it, the annual thing about speaking about Bill C-30, 36,
Yeah,
34,
Biblical Sexuality Sunday.
Biblical Sexuality Sunday, and let's just say you're in there looking for art, like you kind of have to go and look at the sources just to make sure, because you just can't trust entirely. So there are like caveats there where we do have to be still discerning and not just
sure.
trusting these things entirely, because we just don't want to blindly follow this bot that's telling us things.
And because we're dealing with AI, this puller of information, it sort of has the facade of neutrality, right? Sort of like how people, I'm sure we all got into fights during COVID. People just trust the science, or you talk to somebody about climate alarmism, and it's like, well, there's consensus on, and it's like, well, science is looked at as objective. It's looked at as we're all looking at neutral facts. We all are presuppositionalists. We understand that all facts are interpreted through a worldview. But I think that people's defenses are down. When you're talking to another human being, you understand the bias. But I think when you're pulling information from a source like AI, I think I think the danger to trust it as objective and neutral is far greater. And so it has the possibility of discipling. It can be a discipleship tool put in the hands of people with bias.
Yeah, I think you're right. And like, people forget how obvious this is. Like, everything has a
Right.
bias. You open a dictionary, it has a bias, right? The Webster's Dictionary of 2024 or 2025 is not the Webster's Dictionary of 1880. Like, same words, totally different definitions. So it's certainly not an unbiased source of information. As if like the internet ever was also.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, like, even when I think about AI stuff, and one of the challenges that a lot of people are, or I think teachers particularly are having, is just kids writing stuff. And I mean, like, using it for sourcing is good. I know Wikipedia I don't even know, but has that changed? Is that considered a valid source now, or do you still have to do more? Because I remember back in high school when Wikipedia became
I
a
don't
thing,
know.
it was like,
It wasn't
you
even
can't.
for me in university. I couldn't use it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what does it mean for researching now and sourcing and all those things? But I think another one of the dangers of AI is just people relying on it to do all your stuff for you, and like, you're not working anymore. So like, I'd be very curious to see how many kids' papers submitted, what percentage are genuinely AI, because I know teachers are using tools to detect it, but then there's now counter tools that know how to write around that. Like, so it's like a never ending game.
But also, how many teachers are using it to grade papers?
Of course. Of course.
Right? Like,
yeah. Well, like, so even just as an example for people listening, like the power of what it can do and how quickly it can do it. So with Ezra, one of the things that we did this year was we released a new updated edition of the Mission of God, Dr. Joe Boots, seminal work, really important work, and we wanted to include a study guide. We tasked a guy, Dr. Aaron Edwards. He was doing it for us. And I just, out of curiosity, like, so just so people know that the study guide in the book is Dr. Aaron Edwards, but I just wanted to know, well, could we use AI for this? And so then I just took the chapter, popped it in ChatGPT, and I said, okay, can you create from this chapter study guide questions with a university level audience for small group discussion, and then tell us what, or output those questions. It took 15 seconds, and they were fantastic. They were so good. It was just absolutely incredible, the results of it. So Like, that's an example where, I mean, Aaron did a great job, but how many tens of hours possibly was it doing 16 chapters of study guide questions, having to like go through the chapters, read through it, make sure it made sense, did it align with what was written in the chapter? And that's where it's just like
Yeah.
that's really hard
And I
to.
think especially when you like when we're talking about the students using it to essentially plagiarize or teachers using it to, not actually do their job, to get to know their students, to get to know their writing, all like that kind of stuff is like it stresses the importance of surrounding yourself with friends and churches, schools, institutions, um, that have people who you actually trust, right? Like that's going to become more and more important as this stuff becomes more and more um, common, right? It's just like, yeah, like I want to send my kids to a school where I trust that the teachers are actually grading their papers and getting to know how these students write and, therefore teaching. So it's like, yeah, it creates an extra layer of almost automatic distrust. And so makes it all the more important to surround yourself with people you do.
Yep. Yeah. Well, are there any other things that you guys can think of? Because I want to potential dangers that come to mind for you. Before I just want to highlight some of these additional benefits that.
Skynet. I mean,
There you go. Okay, but seriously, that actually does bring up just like national security and warfare,
right.
because those are real things that militaries are now using to be able to respond to threats without having to have a human weigh the options and look at the data. And now all of a sudden, like, you can just instantly, it can make a decision based on the probabilities and based
Yeah.
on the scenario. That's both incredible, but the fact that some computer that has built-in bias has the ability to push like a nuke button
Yeah.
is
That
something that should be concerning.
Yeah, I joke about Skynet, but that is the real threat, is the idea that because again, it comes with a worldview, right? So you look at a guy like Elon Musk, and he has an unwavering belief that humanity, because of our organic makeup, are weak. We have emotions, we have all these kinds of things, we can be manipulated. He really truly does have a belief that the potentiality of an AI mind has greater potential than human mind, and it's morally better. And
Yeah.
so, and that's just one guy. But when you start thinking about secretaries of defense and all that kind of stuff who would believe those same things, that is a danger. Because God endowed, the pinnacle of his creation with his image, with the moral ability to choose right and wrong. Machines were not endowed with that ability.
Luckily, Trump is not of the opinion that anyone is better than him. So I don't think he's giving the nuke button to anyone else, man or machine.
Yeah.
So we're safe for 4 more years.
We got 4 years. Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Well, a couple benefits, because, well, we already talked about some. We talked about productivity. I mean, at the very least, AI has benefited Jordan Cecile greatly. This has been a wonderful tool for me. But if we think just even how we're called to love our neighbor, we're called to cultivate creation, like AI type tools are actually going to do that when you think of things like food production, when you think of things like medicine. Those are very real things that, again, when you have this compute power and these mathematical formulas that can, based on this set of variables and the probability of something with these different factors, it can then make a decision very quickly where a person would not be able to make that decision with the same kind of speed. Now, you do have potential risk in that. Like Tesla's AI auto driving thing can make errors, but it saves more lives than it loses. It's an overwhelming net good. So it's not saying it's perfect, but when you do look at that, like, that is an incredible thing for people. So even like a good example, I just saw somebody tweet this the other day. a girl broke her hand, went to the doctor, they took x-rays. Oh, no, it's not broken. The mom said, okay, there's something not right here. This is not just a fracture. Like, my kid has sprained their wrist before, or whatever bone it was. And this isn't normal. And so, oh no, everything's fine. There's no brain. It might just be a fracture, no break. So then what the mom what she did, because Grok is really good at scanning images and being able to identify what's going on in an image. So she uploaded it to Grok and explained what the doctor said and what she was thinking. And Grok identified, no, this is a break. Here it is at this point. And then so she went to a different doctor and they said, no, this assessment is actually true. Like, this is based. So Grok was able to read the
Dr. Grok.
X-ray better than the doctor and provided a better diagnosis to then
Doc Grok.
What'd you say? Doc
Grok.
Doc Grok.
Doc
Yeah.
Grok. There you go. That sounds like a Marvel villain. I like that.
Yeah.
But there it is. That is a net good.
Well, I mean, this is how all good villains start.
That's
Yeah,
right.
It's legit.
So let's not create a villain yet. Let's hold on. It's good. It's a net moral good. Let's not turn it evil. But there you go. There's a great example of just healthcare where it's a net good. Now, Nate, or actually both of you both are men of the cloth. I know. What are your thoughts, real quick, on leveraging AI in pastoral work, whether it's sermon prep, is there a place? That's probably the big one, I think, in sermon prep that people would have objections to. So what do you guys think? Is there a place for AI in that whole realm of sermon prep?
For sure, there's a place for it. I think honestly, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, I never knew what soulless art looked like until I saw AI generated images. I do think that AI lacks, again, not made in the image of God. God is a creator. We are created in his image as little creators. So AI does not have the artistic mind of a image bearer. So whether it's art, all that kind of stuff, like, don't get me wrong, logos, slideshows, that kind of stuff, I think it's fantastic for. So I would say appropriate uses of AI for pastors, making PowerPoint, making like sermon series art, making I would also say, like, let's just say you have a text on, I'm preaching on Colossians 2 over the next couple of weeks, and you wanted what are all the verses in the Bible about circumcision and about baptism, and it spits them out. The nice thing is you can Google that too. I do that. Like, I'm sure Ben does that too, where it's like, what does the Bible have to say about gratitude? And websites will come up that have, all these verses about gratitude. The problem is that all of them have bias, right? A lot of Christians use things like gotquestions.org. By the way, not an unbiased source of Christian theology. And so I actually think AI can be used for a lot of that kind of stuff. I think if you're using AI for any writing, like actually formation of your biblical points, if you're using AI to skip doing the homework yourself and actually figuring out what the text says, then I would say you're doing it wrong. I would say that's an improper use.
Yeah.
Partially because the formation of the pastor through regular study and exegesis is actually part of preaching, and among other things. But that's sort of how I would disseminate it.
I mean, I would just say anyone who's been using Logos Bible software for the last 20 years
Good point.
has been using AI to prepare for sermons. Like that's like, I don't know how Logos is going to stay in business, honestly, with with ChatGPT and all these free options to like you said, like, okay, I'm preaching on Colossians chapter 2. Give me all the free online, like, give me Calvin's and Spurgeon's, and like, give me all of their commentaries on these 6 verses. Or and even to the point of, like, you might even say, summarize them all in a paragraph each, instead of, so I don't have to read 600 pages in preparation for this. Or like even that stuff is I think is fine. But I agree, Nate, when you actually get to be like, write me a sermon, then it's like, okay, I think we have crossed a bit of a line here.
Yeah.
But
Well, because
yeah, but to use it as that research assistant replacement, I think is just wise and productive.
because
Yeah.
when you think of so many pastors, I just saw somebody tweet about this somewhat recently, comparing. Actually, it was Brian Sauvé was for whatever reason talking about, or somebody asked him how long it took him to prep a sermon, and he said it was something like 8 to 10 hours on average is usually what it takes him to do one. And I know, Nate, that's pretty comparable to what you would do, like pretty much like a full day. Ben, probably somewhat similar, maybe a bit longer. You don't do it as often, but somewhere in that realm, I'm sure it's something like that. Because then all these guys were getting on him and saying, well, I mean, John MacArthur, he preps a sermon for like 35, 40 hours, and this guy does for 25, 30 hours.
Yeah, I've
And so
seen these guys say like an hour per minute
and
of
it's
sermon
just such
length.
a
And I'm just like,
strange flex,
it's
right?
so
It is a
strange.
strange
Yeah.
flex.
It
It's
it's
like
just
how when pastors boast about how long their series through a certain book was.
yeah.
I did 78 messages in the book of Philemon.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well,
Weird
because
flex.
like the thing I appreciated, just like a brag about you a little bit, Nate, and just because it was something I wasn't used to, is just seeing a pastor who is so invested and involved in the life of the church and having people over and like getting to know people. Like my kids know you as Pastor Nate. Sadly, it's not a common thing. So I think a guy like Brian Sauvé is similar in that. I think the guy is very active in the life of his church. And so you'd think that a lot of these guys would look at a tool where it's like, oh, wait, I'm probably neglecting that in some way if I'm spending 35 to 40 hours on my sermon, because guess what? Unless you're working 60 hours in a week, which if you are, you shouldn't be, maybe you're spending too much time on your sermon and idolizing your sermon versus being an actual shepherd in your church. So
Yeah.
you, this
I
would,
honestly think, unfortunately, a lot of these guys, and I mean, I'm not claiming this of John MacArthur and whatever, but a lot of these guys would just rather shut themselves in
yeah,
their study and live inside their books
yeah,
and not be with their people.
yeah. So this is just a tool that allows you to probably cut down what, 20, 30% of that time of your
Totally.
going through your manual, like, physical editions of books looking for that quote. It's like,
Yeah.
well, it gets it for you now, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a great example. And even I thought personally, I don't have objections to this, but Michael Foster, pastor down in Ohio, I think somewhere like that, author
Yep.
of
Yeah, he's
Good
just
to Be a
outside of
Man.
Cincinnati, I think.
And he was saying that he uses it to help him condense points, make some of his ideas in his sermon clearer. So, using a prompt like, hey, make this so that a 10th grade reading level can comprehend this better. I think that is a great way of helping your people, especially if you have a complex text or something, a point that you're maybe having a hard time, or it's like, I can't really come up with an analogy or an illustration for this that is just really communicating this clearly. Well, now you can. And
Yeah.
I think that is a very helpful thing to your people. And again, instead of you spending 30 minutes trying to come up with an illustration, just, oh, here, that's a great idea. And I think that can be super helpful.
I've
Yeah, I
actually
think
never thought about
it's
that.
one thing
So
for you to come up with like the base text of the sermon and be like, AI, help me wordsmith this to a 10th grade level, this
Yeah.
paragraph.
Yeah.
That's one thing than to say, write me
Yes.
a
That's right.
paragraph. That
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
that's totally different in my
And that's
opinion.
interesting
But
because
yeah.
I've like there have been times I think both of you at various times have received a text message from me saying, "Hey, here's my big idea for Sunday. Help me
Yeah.
like make it not 3 sentences." You
Yeah,
know
I've
what I
been your
mean? Like
chat GPT a couple times.
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And I think like wordsmithing is a really important part of pastoral like ministry of teaching in general, because you do need to have your points concise, well worded, memorable, all those kinds of things. So if there is somebody who's they know the word of God, they're great exegetes, but they're not necessarily that wordsmith, I think utilizing AI, there's nothing wrong with that, just to help them gain something that um is maybe a missing in their skill set. It doesn't, yeah. So I think there's lots of good uses of all these things. I think, and Christians should make sure that we're not clutching our pearls when we hear things like Michael Foster saying, "Oh, I use AI to help with sermon prep," and not immediately assume that what he means is he's writing that and scouring YouTube for hockey highlights or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think or football. He's an American, right? So yeah, I think there's lots of great uses for it in that way, and I think and I honestly I'm thankful that I'm as close as I am to Jordan, because like you've utilized this in our Ezra meetings. We get AI generated notes right after a meeting that has tasks and to-do lists and all that kind of stuff. It really can help you be better. So like for a guy like me, who I think I'm a fairly good thinker, I'm a fairly good speaker, I'm terrible administratively, utilizing AI to help shore up some of my administrative shortfalls, whether it has to do with helping me with my calendar, booking appointments, email responses, all that kind of stuff. I think that's really helpful. I think we'd be foolish not to use it.
Yeah, Nate and I just had a meeting with our Antioch committee at our church. There's a big project we're working on, building project thing. But we had our meeting, and
Which
I'm
is
like, this,
not unlike AI in terms of its goal is world domination.
that's right. That's right. Just real world. We want
Yeah.
the real world. But in that meeting, I'm our secretary as like communications and just taking notes and stuff. And so I just put my phone down and was recording it. And I could tell that one of our elders was a little bit confused by that. And it was like, just, it's fine. Don't worry. And it recorded the whole thing. And then it automatically, so the tool I use it for meetings with clients and stuff, is just, it recorded it. It summarized it. It created action items. It created links back to the audio recording. So people, if they wanted to go and listen to something, it could just click on it, go back. And I didn't have to do a thing. Like that to me is just talk about efficiency, talk about helpful. And to that generation, I remember, or to Dave, who he was just like, what is this? Like pretty much, I'm pretty sure he thought it was black magic. And it's just like, that is the type of thing that if you're not using it, you're just wasting your time. Because who wants to sit there and take notes and then have to record it? And if I had to do that manually, I would have spent hours doing that, and it just wouldn't have made any sense. So, all right, before we wrap up, because we're going a little bit long, we're gonna do a little bit of a game, and it's called Bought or Not. You boys, you didn't know we were gonna do this. So what I have here,
What or not?
Bought or Not.
Oh, bought or not?
Bought
Oh,
or
boy.
not. And I have a series of theological quotes, and I want you guys to tell me if this is a real quote from a real person or if this is AI.
Wow. Okay.
Okay,
Let's go.
here we go.
Okay. So, quote number 1. In the spiritual realm, humility is the only anchor that keeps our souls from drifting into the storms of pride.
I'm going bought. I think it was a little
It's got
on the nose.
it's got a very Puritan flavor to it, but I'm going to go with bot as well.
That is a bot.
Nice.
That is a bot. Okay. Quote number 2. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you.
Well, I know that one, so it's
Yeah,
not a bot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the influence. Not a bot.
That is not a bot.
Yeah.
And this is, so readers, just so you know, I used AI to do this. This was not my work. So
the whole
if
thing
it's
is
an
a bot.
AI generated game called
if
bot or
if
not.
if the description of the quote is wrong, it says that it was from St. Augustine, from Confessions.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Quote number 3. If the soul aspires to behold beauty, it must free itself from the shackles of earthly desire.
I'll say not.
I'll go bot just so that we separate here at some point, Ben.
That is in fact a bot.
Ah.
All right. What do we got here? Let's see. All right. Quote number 4. Man's nature, so to speak, is a perpetual factory of idols.
I mean, I would say not, because I think that's John Calvin, but I don't know if that's the exact phrase.
That's what I was just going to say. I don't know if that's like
It
the
might
word
be
for
slightly
word.
paraphrased, some of these.
Yeah.
So like
Okay,
it might
well
not
then
be a
I'll
word
say
for word.
not if it's
Yeah,
if it's
I'll
allowed
say
to
not
be
as well.
a little off.
Bonus points for saying you get extra Shroot bucks because it was John Calvin.
Nice. Sweet.
Okay. Let us see here. Okay. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains.
I mean, it's either a bot or like Joel Osteen.
No, I actually think that's say that one more time. Whispers to us in our what?
God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains.
Yeah, I think I know that one too. I'm gonna say not.
That is C.S. Lewis.
There you
Yep.
go.
All right. Quote 6. When human knowledge reaches its limit, love becomes the only path to true understanding.
Bot. Gay bot.
Yeah, I think that's a bot also.
That
Or
is-
C.S. Lewis again.
So is C.S. Lewis a gay bot then? Is that what you're saying? That is a bot. Okay. Quote number 7. In the darkest moments of doubt, faith is the ember that ignites the dawn of belief.
It sounds a little flowery, which is what would make me think it's a bot, but it could be like that sounds like a Soren Kierkegaard kind of analogy.
I'm going bot. I'm going bot.
I'll go not.
It is, in fact, a bot.
No, there you go.
All right. And last one, quote number 8. Peace if possible, truth at all costs.
Martin
That's-
Luther.
that's
There
a
it
not.
is.
Not a
Martin
bot.
Luther. There it is. Well, there you have it, everybody. Our first segment of bot or not. Because
Nice.
yeah, I thought that would be, and it all generated via AI. So if you have issues with it, take it up with AI. But
Right.
if you are a listener and you have ideas for other types of things we could use,
I
AI
remember back in the day. Did you guys ever listen to the Reform podcast like
Oh yeah.
years ago when it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
thing?
I never did.
It was like the first one, right?
They had was it Joel Osteen or Fortune Cookie? I think
Yes.
one of which
That was a great
okay, now that
game,
you
yeah.
say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, listeners, if you have other ideas, shoot it our way. But yeah, I think that's, boys, is there anything else, or can we put a pin in that?
We could put a pin in that one.
Put a pin? All right. Well, and I say
We
that
could
because
tease
I
our
would like,
listeners. We got a great episode for you next week. Great
oh
guest.
yeah.
Stay
Yeah.
tuned.
Yeah, we got a fun guest next week. But yeah, so if you, thank you for joining. And if you do, in fact, enjoy listening, we ask that you would subscribe on YouTube. You can check us out on podcast services, or come and join us in what is becoming our very fun patron and
Mhm.
Discord community. We're having a lot of fun there, talking about all sorts of things: tech, movies, games, books, Lego. Yep, that started. So, but yeah, hopefully you'll join us over there. But until then, stay nerdy.